Welcome to Pixels and Paragraphs, the bonus show where you get to hear me, Darren Hupke, interview some of the raddest writers behind the greatest gaming books. Each episode, you get to hear from a new guest as they discuss their book, talk about their process, share some details from behind the keys, and more. Whether you're a fan of the book already or want to find something new to read, be sure to check out the show notes for links to everything we discussed today. And also, check out all the other great shows on the Soundstone Network. All right. Well, welcome to a new episode of Pixels and Paragraphs, the podcast about video game books, the spin-off show from Pixels and Polygons. I am Darren Hupke, and I am here with John Rogers from many things from Gaming in the Wild, but also writer of the upcoming Citizen Sleeper 2 Design Works book from Lost in Colt. Hello, John. How are you?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Fun to come and talk about stuff with you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for doing it. I do some writing and I put out some like writing content, like zines and stuff. And I've worked on some books that talk about PlayStation games. And I only started doing that because I bought like on the shelf to my right, I have multiple shelves of just like video game, like history books and, documentaries and discussions and a lot of rad books. From a lot of great publishers, and I just have bought so many of them, I realized I should just talk to those people. And the reason I'm even doing the things that I'm doing is because I've loved all those things. So I don't want to talk about video games all the time. I want to talk about the books about the video games, about the things that I love as well, too. And it's my damn show, so I made this little spin-off show so I can do exactly this. So thank you for joining me. I'd like to kick things off with some introductions and a chance for us to maybe have you tell the listeners about who you are and what you do beyond just the writing of your books. But give us the overview of who you are, John. Let's get inside the head of you.
It's therapy. It's therapy session. Yeah, to get inside the head of me. Actually, it's all kind of tied together. I've been playing games since I was like a small child, like everyone. I took a break, like a lot of people, came back with like Zelda Breath of the Wild, which seems really common too. And then really, really got back into video games because a lot had happened while I was away. And so I started making a podcast called Gaming in the Wild, where I talked about like the advent of indie games, basically. I was playing through everything from Journey onwards, basically. So it was like my journey back into games. And along the way, I found things like Citizen Sleeper, Ultros, looking for games that are in some way sort of artistically interesting or pushing things a little bit. And funnily enough, one of the guys from Lost in Colt heard the Ultros podcast and was looking for someone to write a book about it for Lost in Colt. And I got that gig, so I ended up doing really, really fun deep dive into Ultros, which took like months, spent time sort of talking to the developers, the core team, and putting that together, like the deepest possible dive into Ultros, which to me was like a dream ticket. It's like, how do we ever get the time in our lives to sit and spend that much time with a game that we love? Is crazy, right? So you think about it for literally months, talk about it for literally months, write about it for literally months, and it's a job. Like, great. So yeah, it was really fun to write the Ultros book, and that went well. It's out there now. And the second one is about Citizen Sleeper 2, another dream gig. I'm a huge fan of Gareth Damian Martin since In Other Waters, basically. And like stoked to see that they announced their new game like yesterday or the day before, Signet City. So Gareth's new game is out there in the world. So yeah, I wrote the book on Citizen Sleeper 2. That one is in production, and I think it's intended to come out by the end of this year.
If you try and order it now, it does like the typical Lost in Colt fashion. It lets you know it is shipping, targeting Q3, Q4. So you're not ever actually buying something and feeling like you're getting, swindled into like, wait, where is this at? Mm-hmm. It's never coming. Where is this happening? Like it's in production, and they let you know all that, and they ship it really well. Multiple books I've purchased from them. It is bizarre how. It's well-designed books. They're like visually, like amazingly like put together and everything as well. But like, it seems that same exact attention to detail and care goes into actually how they package the books as well. So they ship really secure, and they're always never damaged, but they're always also just like neatly packed in like boxes that also have design and elements and graphic design pieces like put on them and everything too. So it's just a rad company to be able to have a book through, and now multiple books through. So that's really, really cool. It's also an interesting story about how you got roped in. That was actually going to be one of my questions, is how you got involved with the group, but with the publisher. But having them hear your podcast is kind of like, that's that. I've always dreamed going to a concert and seeing one of my favorite bands and having like the rock star Mark Wahlberg movie moment where like, oh, our singer, something happened to him, does anybody in the crowd know the words to our songs? And then suddenly the spotlight's on me. I get to go up there and get a whole new job. Like, that is essentially as nerdy and as silly of the video game book fan version of that as possible. You're just out there in the wild talking about a game that you love and enjoy, and then somebody overhears it and allows you to be connected with that developer to get inside of it all and to be able to be part of that process. Like, that's a dream to be able to do that. So that's really rad. Yeah,
it's a funny one. Like Gaming in the Wild is like a weekly podcast that mainly just talks about games. It's like sort of me chatting about games, chatting about what I'm playing. It's like autobiography in games and analysis of games, but occasionally like something comes along that is like I need to know more about it than I can get from just playing the game. Like me chatting about games that I like is like fun, and then occasionally there's a game where I'm like, I need to know more about this game blew my mind. And so occasionally I will do a developer interview on the podcast. Like there's only been like 10 of them. I did one about Sable. I did one about Signs of the Sojourner, which I think is like one of the most underrated indie games out there. I did one about In Other Waters, which is how I met Gareth, and Ultros, and 1000 Times Resist. So it's like a really short list of games that require further investigation, basically. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to the Ultros guys after playing that game. I was like, how did this game happen? Like, what is with this psychedelia being roped into a game in this way, and this like the thoughts about sort of eternity and selfhood mashed in with this sort of time loop Metroidvania and this orchestral vast soundscape. So I reached out to them and ended up chit-chatting with Hugo Billet, who designed the gardening system, interviewed Hugo on the podcast. And I think that was the one that the Lost in Cult guy heard and was like, oh, this seems to be what we're after. So yeah, I kind of like it personally when you do like passion projects in life that then end up plugging into other things. Like, it's not like you ever applied for something. It's not like you ever applied for a job or sought a role, but just like turning up, being there and like doing your thing, like knocking into other things that then like roll off of that. It's like the most organic and pleasing way for anything to happen. So I was, obviously over the moon about it.
So yeah, you were already doing the work out of your own interest and your own personal drive of curiosity, of creativity, of what you were doing. You were already, hey, I love this game. I love this project. I want to know more about it. I'm reaching out to these folks. And you were going to do that regardless if there was this book happening or not. You were going to just scratch that itch and be satisfied to like learn as much as you can of it. And then it just so happened that the opportunity came to be able to allow you to kind of go further with that. But it sounds like regardless, you were already working in that direction of just uncovering and learning more. Where do you think that's come from for you? Before, when you were younger and you played games, I know, like for me growing up, I would talk to kids at recess, about NES games or whatever, and it would be surface level like conversations about games. But I ended up realizing like early on that I would think about games like mechanically, like, oh yeah, so you can only move, like these are your limitations, like the only way you interact with these objects is through like keys or like some type of unlockable. And so I would try and logically like explain away like their random Easter eggs or their random like fake cheats, like, oh yeah, I've heard you can jump over this if you do this, and I'd have to like be the one like, well, no, that doesn't make sense because there's no mechanics that would allow you to do that. And I was always the weird one. So I always knew as a young person that I liked the idea of thinking about how things worked behind the scenes, and that got me interested as I got older into development and into things that like I wanted to explore further in understanding video games. So this idea of like when you're inspired or connected to something like you were with Ultros, do you think you had that same type of interest as a younger gamer? Like, were you looking at games and trying to pick them apart and disseminate them to like understand how they worked? Like how did the younger version of you show up to be this older, curious version of you?
Yeah, it was the same shit basically. Like, funnily enough, I was like I worked at a magazine here in Iceland for a while. It was like a kind of newsy culture free sheet street paper. And once every year it does like an Iceland Airwaves Festival music magazine. And I was working on that and was the editor of that for a while. And I realized like during making this music magazine that I was basically like fulfilling the dreams of my 12-year-old self. I realized, I thought back and was like, in summer holidays, I used to like write these like articles that weren't necessarily good, but and then like go into my dad's work and photocopy them and use a long arm stapler and make zines basically and make 10 copies and give them to my friends. And this is like just an instinct, just some strange drive to have as a child to spend your summer doing that, right? But then it's really funny to later in adulthood realize that, I'm now 45 years old and I'm finally doing what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old. Somehow that instinct is the same and now I'm doing it professionally. So there was definitely something in the mix from being a kid to share opinions, basically, or like the pleasure of publishing thought, you know? And yeah, in my teens, I was really into Super Play magazine, Amiga Power magazine. I was always reading video game journalism, which was at the time sort of directed towards children, I guess, and teens. But then I do remember like the first issue of Edge magazine, and I was suddenly like, oh, this is like the first ever issue. It was on glossy paper, unlike all of the other sort of kid-based, sort of cartoony-looking ones. And it had like a quality feeling to it, and the writing's tone was different, and it felt like it was written for adults. And I think it was maybe the first time I'd encountered video game writing that was not meant for children. And I think maybe Edge magazine, I mean, Chris Schilling from Edge magazine is now like an editor at Lost in Cult. So I think there's a pretty clear through line maybe from Edge trying to cater to this aging or like a more sophisticated bunch of gamers, right? Like adult gamers. And maybe Edge was when that happened in the UK at least. And like Lost in Cult is like a logical conclusion of that, you could say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. I mean, there's even like a through line for you of like your own interests and how that's connected and everything. Like same thing for me growing up. I would read like North American magazines. There was Game Pro and Nintendo Power and even EGM, but they often had like comics and art, and they were definitely like kid focused and kid friendly. And Electronic Gaming Monthly would ultimately kind of like level themselves up into slightly like more mature, more design. But that was also after Next Gen arrived here, which was hijacking like the crew from like Edge as well. Like there was when that first started, it was literally just the same editors and writers of Edge there, just brought over here under like a new name, and then it evolved out of that and everything. So yeah, that late 90s where that gaming kind of evolved from just being like a children's toy into like an actual creative and entertainment industry that, you know, can have mature thought and can have criticism, can have complexities, and can have like, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, we want to read and discover and learn more about. It was a good time. I grew up through that same time period. So as I was aging and needing that, it was there for me as it came up too. So similar thread as yours. I'd love to maybe get into the book, and then maybe we can circle back in, because I had a few other questions maybe about what you already brought up about you coming back into games within the indie space, but maybe we save that for the end for like the plugs and what additionally that you do. But yeah, so for Citizen Sleeper 2, was this able to be started just because of your existing relationship after finishing your last book with Lost in Cult, or similarly, was this just you played the game and wanted to be more involved and reached out to developers and then were able to pitch that to the Lost in Cult group? Like how did this opportunity originally form for you? Like when did that first start?
I mean, I guess I had reached out to Gareth myself after they published In Other Waters. So it was like 2 years before Citizen Sleeper. An interview. It was the first ever developer interview that I had done, and I was just like a guy with a Gmail reaching out to a developer, saying, "I love this game. Can we talk?" And Gareth said yes. So there's like a 1 hour interview between me and Gareth from like I think like 2018 or 19, where we talk about In Other Waters, which I think is a wonderful game, by the way. Like everyone's played Citizen Sleeper now. In Other Waters, Gareth's first game, is like of a similar quality in a very different world. So, you know, everyone now is waiting for Signet City. Like, check out In Other Waters, man, if you haven't already, because like there is another Gareth game out there. And so I had like met and talked to Gareth, right? And then obviously Citizen Sleeper blew up. Loved that game too. Had covered it. I think Lost in Cult were planning to do the book. They did Citizen Sleeper 1. It was written by Ewan Wilson. It's really good. I've got a copy of it right here. And somehow, they just thought I was a good fit for that gig, I guess. And having done Ultros, we had a good working rapport. So it just sort of one flowed into the next, basically. But yeah, getting to sit with Gareth for a long time is a treat. Like, Gareth is like a font of wisdom about science fiction and about like so many things. Gareth's just like a incredibly interesting person. And so getting to sit and talk about the game for like literally 30 plus hours across several weeks, to mine into the influences, to mine into the thinking, the design decisions, the mode of crafting characters, the mode of crafting locations, was just an absolute treat for me. It was just like a real pleasure. And then to talk to Guillaume Singelin, who did the illustrations, and Amos Roddy, who did the music, was like wildly aware of both of their work too. I've bought games literally just because Amos Roddy was in the credits without knowing anything else about the game, just to hear the soundtrack. So really fun to talk to Amos as well. So yeah, it all happened very naturally, I would say.
How early in the development process of the game did you start to actually have these conversations with them? Did you come in after the game was like near completion or was fully complete? Because I know that's what's unique about this, the upcoming book, is it's not just like this is a not just a retrospective to talk about and dissect how the game was happened, like after the fact. Like you get to actually like learn, like not just from that foresight of looking back at it, but like you're talking about like the creation of it, the inspirations of it, and the slices of it along the way and everything. So how early did you get involved in that process of communicating with them?
The first time that I talked to Gareth about Citizen Sleeper 2 was for the Gaming in the Wild podcast, actually. And it was on the day that it was coming out. So there's a really interesting podcast in the Gaming in the Wild backlog where I'm talking to Gareth 3 hours before the game is released. And so Gareth is like waiting for the Metacritic score, is like full of that. You can imagine that. You can imagine that like that moment for a developer, like having done 2 years of work on a game. And then like it's coming to the finish line. It's about to happen. It's about to come out. And I'd played it pre-release. And so I was talking to Gareth just as the world was about to experience the game. Like a fascinating moment to talk to any developer. Then the game came out, did well. I think it's like Metacritic 85 or something. And so it was good to have that in the back of my head, actually, because the Lost in Cult gig came along a little later. The game was already out. The dust had settled. But I was able to draw on that like 1 hour interview with Gareth from the past. And some of that went into the book, actually. It was like Gareth's feeling about the game and anxiety about the game, and then how that felt later. Was able to sort of hold those in two hands and get them in there. So yeah, I think that both books, the game was finished and out. And the developers were revisiting it when we did the interviews.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe anybody would agree to do an interview at that time frame. Like that's got to be that, like you shut down and like separate yourself so that you can like, I'm just going to smash refresh here. I'm going to try and distract myself. I'm going to come back and not be able to distract myself. Like you're about to unleash this. Yeah. That's insane that somebody would be willing to put themselves in a space to be recorded and have a conversation with somebody during that mental time frame.
It's like Gareth is like, this is a great way to fill my time because I'm talking and busy instead of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that was the point of booking an interview there.
What were some what was your process like for writing this? Like, how do you, as a writer and as somebody obviously who's been doing it for a little while now, and this not being your first book, how do you set out to like start a writing project like this? Like, what are like the tools and crafts and workflows that you like to use? And like, how do you like keep like pace or sane or keep yourself motivated like within your process?
I think that like coming from a journalism background, like I do, like a magazine journalism background, there are some priorities that have been kind of built into me. Learning my craft at magazines means that I've had editors who, excuse me, they like push you to get to the heart of the person, because you've only got like 500 words or 1,000 if you're lucky, and so you kind of have to get in there and find out something quickly, and then get it into an article that is publishing very near in the future. And I think that has fed into my like video game interviewing work as well. It's like I think the Ultros book could have been very different in the hands of another writer. It could have been like broken down into the art, the gameplay, the process. The way that I did it was that I found the crew that were making the game to be personally interesting. Like Niklas, who did the art, Morten, Hugo, Pelle, who did the writing, and Oscar, who did the music, are all fascinating bunch of people. And so I felt like there was like a human angle that came into it, where it's about the game, but it's also about the people that made the game, and who they are and how they became who they are and what their concerns are. So it's like Ultros through the lens of the people who made it. Which I think is kind of, there are different ways to approach a project like this, right? I mean, I was pushing for photographic portraits of the people. Didn't quite fit the design aesthetic. That's like maybe too far into magazine journalism to have the faces there. And it was the same with Citizen Sleeper 2. Obviously, it's mostly Gareth. Gareth holds the vision for those games. But it was interesting to talk to Guillaume and Amos as well, and to get there. There were some beautiful moments that came out of talking to them, like talking to Guillaume, like Guillaume's perspective on the game, having not been in primary development, being in a different country, drawing portraits, feeding back with Gareth, not really knowing the full context of the people that are being drawn until way later. So that was a beautiful moment for Guillaume to say, like, when I actually played the game after release, when the French translation landed, like a couple of months after release, it was finally my time to meet the characters that I had drawn, and to kind of learn who they are and what their stories are, which was such a beautiful thing to like come up in an interview, I think. So yeah. I think I'm strongly drawn to the personalities of the people who make it, their concerns, and that's always like front of mind for me.
And then in that writing process, like how structured do you give yourself? Like do you force milestones on yourself? Do you like want to achieve certain like word counts or draft revisions like done by certain periods of time? Like how do you stay motivated or timely to get a project done like this? Like obviously these working with a publisher, they want to have it at probably a certain period of time. So how do you stay on track there yourself as a creator, as somebody who does outside, of writing? You're doing your podcast, you're doing other things. How do you stay on task to stay motivated, but also feel like you're putting in the work that you feel these games deserve?
Man, I would like to hear from other writers about this. I get the feeling that everyone has got a completely different way of doing it, right? And it was completely different for the two books. Like Ultros was nuts. I was moving house. I was like changing job. I was like, it was the high of Icelandic summer, so it's like 24-hour daylight, which drives you insane. And like you lose your circadian rhythm, and you're kind of in a sort of mania in the Icelandic summer. And also trying to do this book, and like living in a temporary basement until my flat was ready. It was like a whole whirling sort of dreamy time. And it actually gave me some structure. I was like, well, I'm going to interview Martin on a Monday. I'm going to try and finish that by a Friday. I'm going to interview Pelle on a Monday and try and finish that chapter by a Friday. And like Lost in Cult have milestones, as normal, as any publisher does. But yeah, self-imposed structure. It probably like helped me through that summer, honestly, doing the Ultros book. It gave me a structure that I didn't otherwise have. Citizen Sleeper 2 was very different. It was the winter. It's quiet. Days feel long. Lots of concentration. It's like roll through it really nicely. Interviews every 2 or 3 days with Gareth, like 1 to 2 hours per time. And then just process that. It's a little bit of a logistic challenge. Like if you talk to someone for 30 hours, you're going to end up with hundreds of thousands of words of transcription for a book that is probably a quarter of that. So it is definitely like a logistical challenge, right? And I think I learned through doing the 2 books that I've done that structuring your interviews ahead of time to like box off or ring fence certain subjects. So you know roughly in which basket the things that you're looking for are when you start piecing it together. Is something I definitely learned, like structured interviews, and trying to stay on topic, trying to ring fence stuff, and to format the data. Like as soon as you're done with an interview, it's like summarize what was in it and make that available to your future self. because your future self will be so happy about that when they're looking for a specific quote. You know what I mean? And they know at least which file to look in from the 50 files.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you're stuck not just participating in that 30 hours of interviews over all those times, but you're stuck to listening to all of those back again for another 30 hours trying to find what you were looking for. So, it's that foresight that you don't probably know early on to try and do those things. Those are lessons you kind of have to learn by, figuring them out the hard way and everything. That's interesting. This, I guess, kind of blends into like another question that I had about your process too, though. In your research, if you're allowed to share, like, are there things that maybe you had hopes to include in the final books, whether from the Ultros book or for the Citizen Sleeper book, that you wanted to explore an idea or a thought or something came up in conversation that you wanted to find a space for, but just didn't quite make the final book? Like some curious research or curious facts that you found, like, or anything that you're able to share. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that question is basically about, like I said, like when you've got that amount of chat with someone, there are things that there are threads that you could tug on more. It's like the book could be twice the length, right? And like being a journalist is used to having 500 words to 1,000 words to 2,000 for a cover story, maybe. Having 40,000 words seems like you get to sort of skip through the mountains. You have so much space to write anything that you want to write. And then when you start doing it, you're like, the walls are closing in pretty quickly. You're like, okay, so if Gareth Damian Martin starts talking about like the importance of abandoned World War II architecture on the coast of England and goes off onto some sort of screed about it, like abandoned radar dishes, and like exploring them and like pirate radio stations that were broadcast from them in the 60s. You're like, this is gold. This is all gold. And then you look at the space you have available and you're like, well, this is a 500-word piece about one location in the game, which is like a radar dish that was in Citizen Sleeper 2. If people have played it, they might know about it. It's called The Hollow. And that was inspired by all of that stuff. None of that went in. Like, I kind of had to summarize it into 2 lines and be like, Damian Martin took inspiration from existing post-war architecture. And that's kind of it, But that could have been like a whole article in itself. So loads of stuff on the cutting room floor, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think creatively you may ever find a way to repurpose or use some of those things? Or are you at peace that like that was part of the process in order to create what you were able to create here? So I know obviously that could probably swing both ways, but yeah, do you think that you would, maybe do more with some of that content, or are you happy with where it kind of finished? Yeah,
I think once you're done, you got to draw a line under it. I had an interesting conversation with Sean, who is like the guy I talked to at Lost in Cult the most. Sean wrote the Eastward book and the Animal Well book. And so it's like very seasoned in the exact problems that I'm talking about. Like what makes the cut, what doesn't make the cut, what do you do with it? I think like for a project of that size that is so enveloping, like learning to let go of it when it's time is a good thing. I think like my takeaway from all of the long conversations all of the details that didn't get in, it's for me kind of like I'm glad that I talked to Gareth about that. It's in my mind now. And like, there is like a bookshelf behind me. I guess this is an audio podcast, so most people can't see it. But this bookshelf here is entirely stuff that I bought based on Gareth's. Gareth is like Blame, the manga is a big influence. Like all of the William Gibson books is a big influence. A book called Austral, the science fiction. A book called, I forget what it's called, Blackfish City, I think it's called. And Gareth's just dropping these, and like Korean science fiction movies and World War II architecture and pirate radio and New York bike fashion, courier fashion of the 80s, where people are making like chainmail so they don't hurt themselves when they're bashing against cars, and how that went into the costume design. Like little crumbs of that went into the book. Like the good parts, I tried to like get the best bits, make sure they go in. But the wider context of it all, I guess it's just for me. That's kind of a treat, right? Like I've now got a giant pile of books curated by Gareth and like just a lot of great thought bouncing around in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, no, that sounds cool. I mean, obviously that's what fills the creativity. Like you're doing this out of passion and fandom and like that personal drive and all that stuff. So while, you know, you can have both things be true at the same time. Like you could be proud of and know that you've completed your process and completed your project, and that's what gets to be released and read by, you know, other folks for hopefully to entertain them, and you're very happy with that. But then at the same time, the process of creating it all, like you're doing that because you enjoy that and you love that, and so being able to have all these things, even if they're just personally kept by you now and don't have anywhere else to go, like being with you is the good part. Like that's the benefit. That's the collateral damage that motivates you to like, hey, this is why I like to do these things and why I'm going to continue to do these things, because this is neat. I get to be a part of this, and now this is a special thing that I get to have now. So that's really cool. That's probably maybe the answer to one of my last questions, though, is what is your favorite part of writing and doing projects like this? But I mean, probably it sounds like that personal interaction and that personal connection and that unknown of how you can, you know, be involved and find these, you know, creative pieces from others that you now get to be welcomed into that room in. But are there other elements of the writing process you have that you enjoy, that you would say like are your favorite, or are there any that any part of the process that maybe is your least favorite that you dread looking forward to, or you dread coming up when you're in the writing process?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like I'm interested in creative process generally. Like as a journalist, I was interested in interviewing artists, visual artists, musicians, and learning how they do what they do. It's tough. Like, no, it's a mystery. Often it's a mystery. Creative process is a mystery even to people who create. And it is only through those kind of conversations that it takes some kind of form. And if an artist has like 50 conversations with 50 different people, you'll get 50 different ideas of what a creative process looks like. But it's fascinating to me to talk to someone who has achieved something as monumental as the Citizen Sleeper games. And to figure out how they did it, like, and the answer is often hard work and endless curiosity. It was the same with Niklas, the artistic director of Ultros. Like, Niklas has got a life's work of being interested in science fiction, psychedelic art, video game aesthetics, like new age thinking, like, and maybe not just new age, but like ways of being in the world, where you're open and like processing inspiration, right? And like talking to someone like Niklas, being exposed to that is a treat. And like hearing from someone about that face to face is a wonderful gift. With Gareth too, Gareth's very different, more exacting, but building the Citizen Sleeper universe brick by brick, all of the small decisions that someone makes when making a game like that, like which character sketch becomes the character, who do they become? Why do they become that? Like, is there a reference behind the ear? Gareth often talked about William Gibson's construction of language and the cyberpunk, what's it called again? The William Gibson one? Neuromancer saga.
Yeah.
And like how that creative inspiration went into what they do. And so being exposed to people like that and to have conversations with them where you figure out how something so beautiful was made from human hands and like pens and paper and like tapping on keyboards, because it seems so big from the outside. And so it's kind of inspirational to have an opportunity to go inside of that and to figure out how it was wired together. That's maybe my favorite part. Least favorite part. I'm not great at taking edits. I could be a lot better. Like I spend ages like planning out some paragraph with a certain rhythm, and then you get edits, and I'm like, it feels like sensitive, but you know that everyone's trying to make it better, and it being edited makes you better on the page. Being edited is a treat too. It's a gift. I don't take edits well. I'm sometimes a little defensive. I feel defensive, but I know that like ultimately we're trying to make the best thing possible, and that's no reflection on Lost in Cult. That's like any editor. I've always been this way. So not always happy with like the editing process. It feels like I don't know. I mean, you've probably been edited yourself. I think everyone responds differently to this. Ultimately, being edited makes everything better. It irons the mistakes out of what you're saying. It notices when you're repeating yourself. it's like having an expert make you sound smarter. But maybe like even knowing that in my head, there is an emotional side of me that doesn't love being edited. So maybe my least favorite part, even when the editors are gorgeous, gentle, caring, careful, even so, like something in me doesn't like being edited.
Yeah, no, I get that. I completely understand that. Yeah, I think I'm the same way. The earliest stuff I did, I had, editors looking over that and giving me those notes. And in my mind, I'm like, well, like, no, that's going to take away like this whole point. Like, I thought this was funny. Like, I called this back even later on. And like, it's just kind of interesting. A lot of the stuff I've been doing recently, I've been leaning more into my youthful like punk inspiration, and it's like independently done, and it's kind of all me. But that comes with its own disadvantages as well. Like, having that editor and having those extra set of like eyes and ears and support like helps make things better and helps the good parts rise to the top and refinish off those edges. So I'm working on a bigger project now, and in my head, like I've told myself that I'm going to I'm just starting like the writing of it all now, but like I'm going to work with an editor on this regardless if I'm happy with it or not. Like I want to make sure that this is something I'm putting all my energy into, and that this is the next thing for me to help level up. And I know it's going to be the same thing. Like I've already been writing, I've got 4 chapters done. I feel like these are locked in gold, but I guarantee you there's going to be so much just, hey, you know what, you should punch this up and do this. And I don't know, I'm going to take that as, it's going to initially be like, oh my gosh, this wasn't good. Like I'm terrible. What am I doing? It's going to be that, like second guessing of why I'm even doing this. And am I good enough to even do this? But then I have to like mentally think about like, no, the whole point of this is to make sure whatever is the final version of this, it's the best thing possible so we can all enjoy this just as much as I intend for it to be enjoyed. And that's a good thing. So but I will have that same fight. Like that is the same mental fight.
And I think that relates a little bit to like what I was saying about my favorite part, which is when you talk to a game developer, they can tell you how they planted the first brick, how they broke ground, how they built it over time. And what you see is awe-inspiring, but the process behind it is attainable for anyone, like just that slow building, right? And I think that writers generally often, like we read the New Yorker or like some like amazing piece of journalism, and we think like, how could I even, like, how did they do that? And you don't realize that like there was an editor with that writer the whole way from the commissioning phase, where you're bouncing back and forward the angles of a story. And the writer is getting sharper going into an interview, and then they've been subbed, they've been proofed, they've been edited, they've probably had an editor push back and, like you said, punch up certain parts, take bits out, put it back together again. I was reading about a New Yorker journalist who described the experience of being edited by David, is the editor of the New Yorker, as being like having your car taken apart into every component piece and then reassembled, and then not even recognizing your car after. So like the editing that I've had is pretty soft compared to the editing that some people get. But then when I'm reading New Yorker, I'm like, how could any person write something so smart, incisive, sharp, witty, perfect? And they didn't really do it alone is the thing. And so that I think that's what we have to learn, right? It's like, we shouldn't even have to attain to that height. Like we only have to get halfway there, and a really good editor will get you the rest of the way.
Yeah, and it's not personal. Doesn't have to be taken as like a reflection of your own skill, quality, or commitment to what
even
it is
if it
that you're
feels
doing.
Personal. Even if it feels personal, being edited is a personal thing. So I think it really helps to have like good, strong relationships with people who are editing you. And I will say that everyone at Lost in Cult is like intensely professional and quite kind in the process of editing too. So it's more of a me issue than an anything else issue. You know what I mean? More of a writer issue, you could say.
Well, to wrap things up then, again, I like to, I shared at the top a little bit, but the reason I do the things I do is because I was inspired by a lot of great things out there, and I just challenged myself to like, fill a void of what maybe I saw and, took the motivation of all those things. And I like to pay it forward and share things. So I'd like to maybe drop some like plugs or recommendations. Are there things that, in your process and in your travels, especially even like doing your podcast, are there things that you can maybe shine a light on, recommend and highlight and pay it forward to, for other folks to maybe check out, whether that's games, books, or other like media that you think people should try and see? What are some recent things you've enjoyed that you'd like to share and make sure the world also can put some eyes on it?
I mean, I mentioned Signs of the Sojourner earlier. I don't know if you played that one. It's like a conversational science fiction deck builder. I think it's one of the most fascinating narrative games that I've played. It had like limited acclaim at the time. And when I say that, I mean like not enough people played and reviewed it. But I think about that game all of the time. It's incredible what it does, right? So, it gamifies conversation. So you have like 4 symbols on a card: triangle, square, circle, maybe just 3. And other people speak only in squares. So you have this like Uno style game that happens at the top of a conversation. And if you play a circle that has a triangle, if they don't have a triangle, they'll play a circle to your triangle, and then the conversation will go worse. It's like you're not speaking the same language. You're not getting each other's points. But every time you move around the map of the game, you get a card every time you talk to someone, and you have to throw one away. So by the time you get back home after doing a route of the map, you've got like a whole different vocabulary. So you can talk to people who speak triangles, which is more logical and ordered. And you've maybe lost some of your ability to speak circles, which is what the people speak in your hometown. So you're maybe less able to speak to people that have known you your whole life, but more able to speak to people out in the world. And so it has this like beautiful gamified version of being able to build accord with people, and the difficulty of that and the challenges of that. And as well as that like wonderful mechanism in it, it's also a piece of like near future science fiction writing. There's a lot of post-apocalyptic writing out in the world in science fiction. And this is like somewhat utopian, or like not really, like the world is broken, but it's not like Mad Max, leather, bike gang, cannibals, or The Road. It's like people just trying to get by. And you'll find towns where people are like painting, people are like trying to make food, like grinding up different crops. And so it's like this idea of the future. What if the future was hard, sure, and like society has come down to some degree to show it's more subsistence, but what if people were kind within that and just trying to get by? And so I think Signs of the Sojourner is a game that I bring up again and again because of the quality of the writing, because of the sort of inspirational, the inspired version of a card game as a conversation builder, the narrative decisions you have to make. Really wonderful game. I recommend people check that one out. As for the Gareth stuff, Ultros was great. I'm looking into all of these psychedelic artists I didn't know existed. I'm looking into lots of manga. I didn't know that Miyazaki, the Spirited Away guy, drew comic books for decades before he was a film director. So there are all of these hand-drawn 100-page volumes of like Nausicaa and stuff that existed way before the Studio Ghibli things. So I picked that up from Niklas, like lots of strange, obscure science fiction comic book writers. And from Gareth, I'm just burning through like everything William Gibson's ever written, which is really fun as well. So yeah, I don't think William Gibson and Miyazaki and Hayao Miyazaki need the plug exactly. So let's just say Signs of the Sojourner is the one.
Where did you play that on? Is that on like PC?
It's on everything. It's on everything.
It's on everything now. Okay.
I played it on a Mac computer. It's also on Switch. It's on all the consoles.
Okay, cool. I will put some links in the show notes below. I'll also have links in the show notes for your YouTube page. You also have a Patreon, right? So I can put that in there. And there'll also be links to both books, Lost in Cult pages as well. So anybody listening, if you've already read ahead and looked at the show notes, you've already hopefully clicked on them and looked at them and checked them out. Highly recommend it. If you've not purchased a Lost in Cult book, they are well worth it just for the design aspects alone, like I've already mentioned. But this sounds like it's going to be another really interesting read, so I'm very excited to get this myself. But John, thank you so much for your time. This was fun. Again, this all stemmed from me selfishly wanting to talk to other writers and hear about their process and things and hear about creativity. And it's always just motivating to me personally, but also I hope that it's entertaining for others to listen to, and maybe even inspires others who are on the fence about maybe trying these things themselves to just go do the thing you want to do and have some fun and learn along the way. You're not going to get it right out of the gate, and that's fine. Just have some fun and do the thing you want to do.
Absolutely, man.
Any last words before we go? I
mean, I'm terrible at plugging myself, honestly. I always forget about it, so thank you for the prompt. If people want to hear me talk about games on a weekly basis, gaminginthewild.com has all of the links for my podcast, for my YouTube channel, to like assorted articles on Medium, I do a YouTube video. I think the most popular thing I make right now is a YouTube video once a month, at the start of the month, where I like pass like the hundreds of games that are coming out and bring it down to like 10 or 20 indie games that I think are really interesting. And that's kind of taken off. So if people are interested in obscure indie games that are about to come out, then definitely check out the YouTube channel. If people are interested in chat about games that have come out already and game analysis, then that's the podcast. Yeah, it's all out there. You know, I'm doing a lot of stuff all the time. It's not hard to find. It's gaminginthewild.com for all of my stuff.
Awesome. Well, go check that out, everyone. Again, thank you, John. Fun and wonderful conversation. I appreciate you joining me. As far as the podcast, we'll have another new episode next week, as usual. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.